Buenos dias. Good morning. Don't worry. So I don't know how was your evening, but my evening was hard. Or not that hard. It was very nice. So welcome to the Agile Testing Days. It's really a pleasure to having all of you here. Thank you very much for attending. And we are today, there are some people who's missing, but we should be today something like 300, 320 people. So let's see how many we get at the midday. When we started 3 years ago to run the Agile Testing Days, we never thought that we were going to get these numbers because it was just an idea. And I remember when I asked Alessandro Colino to do that, also in my company, to say to people, okay, I would like to set up an Agile conference for Europe. And they said, okay, again, a crazy idea, so let's go for that, let's see. And we have seen the last 3 years that we grow up, and really very keen, not only to see what happened this conference, but we're already planning the next one. This is amazing. So it's really, really great. I want to thank not only you that are coming here, but also the speakers. Without the speakers, we're not able to set up that kind of conference. And it's really not that easy to get all of them here, but we are working very hard to get all of you here, and we're happy, and thank you very much for coming. A conference without sponsors is not possible to do it, because, okay, we can get some money from you, we're happy that you're paying, really. But without this sponsor, it's not possible. That's why please take your time and visit them and try to win some prizes that we have. We have a questionnaire that you got in your bag. And so if you get all the answers, you can win some things. One of the things that you can get, the best things, is a Kindle. It's an electronic book. So if you don't want it, you can give it to me. I can use it. But anyway, there's some other prizes. And of course, this conference is without the help of my colleagues who is working very hard. It's not possible. There are the two principal guys there, Madeleine and Uwe. They work very hard to get this done. Thank you very much. Okay. Catherine is also there. She's the one who do the whole design. So. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have some organizational things for you. The one thing, and important things for me, I already said many times. For me today is like Christmas. Okay, it's like Christmas because tonight we have a real social event that I'm very, very happy. And Lisa Crispin is for me Santa Claus tonight, so don't miss it. Go there. It's going to be very, very funny. Tonight we are going to give the award to the most influential Agile testing professional person this year. And it's going to be known there, and the mayor of the city of Potsdam is going to hand over. So don't miss it. If you haven't signed for that, try to do it. I don't know if we have still places. I don't think so. I think we have a full house, but let's see. So please go there. Oh, I forgot one thing. If you like the program, okay, say thank you to Alessandro Colino. He's the guy who set up the whole program. Thank you very much, my dear. Next year again. Next year again. And so, like I said, the mayor of Potsdam will hand over this award, and I'm really happy to see it. We have really a very great event. It's going to be in the old setup, or film setup from Prince Eisenherz, this is Prince Weiland from the film. You are going to do it in Babelberg Studio, so don't miss it. It's going to be great. Yeah, great. A few things. There are some talks that are canceled. Some people cannot come. One of them is Silvio Glockner from T-System. He just need to jump deeper in a project, so it's difficult. So the other thing is Lloyd Roden. I think he broke a leg, so or had some problems with the leg, so he's not there. But instead, Lloyd Roden, Goiko is going to talk there. So go there. You can find in the program the new topic that Gorko is going to talk. And the other one is Marcus Gana. Marcus Gana is ill. He got a cold, so he's not coming. So in this case, Hoop Schatz is going to talk. I think I spelled the name in the right way. Sorry? Hoop. Okay. I know my Hollandish is quite difficult, you know. I have to fight already with my English. So, okay. So we have a wireless LAN. So we have 3 different LANs here. The Agile testing days gate 1, 0, and 2. So try to get in. The best one is the number 0. We have some serious problem with the internet here connection in the hotel. Try to get it, and I think it's wide enough for all of you. So let's see it. The password for that is ATD in capital letters _2011. So try to get into it. One important thing for many of you, we have planned and face-to-face. We have face-to-faces with Johanna Rothman, with Jürgen Appello, with Linda Rising, with Jana Gregory and Michael Bolton. So if you want to talk with them, so you got, I think, 50 minutes, right? Slot, so that you can talk with them about the things that you want to, I don't know, okay? I said about the quiz, so please go and visit the sponsors. So back now to the conference. Yesterday, a guy who visited the talk of, or the tutorial of Johanna Rothman came to me and said, okay, I never thought that a person could store so much knowledge. Yeah. He was really amazed about that. This guy's here, you know him. Yeah? And he said, amazing, amazing. But I know you, you are like that. So it's just, for me, it's not new.
Go faster, because now I'm blushing.
Yeah, really?
I am. I'm blushing. So yeah. Go faster, I want to talk.
Don't worry, let's see it. Yeah, but you know it's true. So Johanna Rothman helps companies to manage the product development and also to minimize the productivity of managers or technical staff. On this topic, she already wrote some books, and that you can buy it, of course. And the new one is here. This is Manage Your Project Portfolio. You can have a look on that, and it's going to be part of the quiz. Okay, so go there and try to win it. Also, Johanna write on Sticky Minds, on her blogs, on jrothman.com, right?
Yeah.
So go there and follow her on Twitter. It's very interesting. Every time when you write something there. Thank you very much for coming. It's really a pleasure having you here, and really keen to hear what you're saying. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I help you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, whew, okay, now I have to stop blushing. That's always a challenge. Well, thank you very much. This is my very first trip to Germany, and especially with a name like Johanna, you wouldn't think that it would be my first trip to Germany, but it is. So thank you all very much for having me. So this is kind of a where have we been and where are we going talk. I wanted to take you a little back to the Wayback Machine. I don't know if you probably don't remember the original Wayback Machine, but let me tell you a few stories about when developers were testers way back, when those of us who were developers drank Coke in the morning, although I only drank Tab back in the 1970s. I know Esther's shaking her head. Who could drink that vile stuff? Well, that's because we didn't have Diet Coke then. So I am an old programmer, and I used to drink Diet Coke. Yeah, some of you are remembering Tab. Yeah, I think that cold caffeine in the morning is quite delightful, and I like it. But back in the 1970s, and I tried to anchor you in this with Star Wars. Some of you are too young to remember standing in line to go to the first Star Wars movie, because I think you were born, but you were too young to stand in line to go see it. I was not. I stood in line to go to the first Star Wars movie. Linda, you probably did too. Yay, us. Yay, Lisa did too. Yes, Janet did too. It was great. It was analog. It wasn't digital. On the other hand, what we did as developers was we tested our own code. I know, this is astonishing. I know, we did. We didn't have separate testers. And one of the interesting things about not having separate testers was we fell into our own traps, right? So I was really good at testing this stuff that worked, right? Well, what a surprise. On the other hand, I was really good at testing my colleagues' stuff that didn't work. Well, what a surprise. Yes, if you could, oh, thank you very much. You realized I was having trouble seeing what I was doing. So it was one of those, thank you. Oh, this is quite delightful. Now I can see where I'm going. So it was one of those things where you said, wouldn't it be great if we had curious people who would help us test our code? And management said, you're right. And over time, they said, we need people who will test other people's code. But man, that's like paying 2 people to do the same job. We don't really want to do that, do we? And is the second person really a professional? Now, you've heard this before, haven't you? You've heard this several times under several different conditions. And I bet you know what's coming. So as we evolved the development and testing professions, if you could say computer, you could get a job as a tester. You didn't even have to spell computer to get a job as a tester. You just had to look kind of professional and be clean. And even that was negotiable. Yikes. I know. So as I go through the Wayback Machine, there were sort of 2 camps by the late 80s. I was one of those people hiring testers who were the equivalent of developers, because the systems I was working on, such as either machine vision systems or artificial intelligence systems or operating systems, needed people who could actually write just a little bit of code. Not very much code, but a little bit, as in this much. You know, start a little bit, kick off a script, see if it worked. Just a little bit. And they had to be able to read a little bit of code, enough to say, boy, this looks really suspicious. And to be able to trace through the code. So reading code and writing just a little bit. Could I hire testers who could not read code initially, but were willing to learn? Absolutely. Did I hire many of them and do on-the-job training? You bet. Did they have to be curious and be systems thinkers? Yeah. Were they willing to grow from where they were? Yeah. So, did I care if they had a bachelor's degree in computer science? Oh, for God's sake, no. Right? But they had to be willing to grow from where they were. And then I had colleagues who said, well, if I'm looking to test medical devices, I need a nurse. Well, maybe. But was that nurse willing to actually look at the code? I didn't hire people who weren't willing to delve down just a couple of levels deeper. And I had many loud discussions with many of the luminaries in the software testing field. And I often felt as if there was a wall that did not come down between us. I think that wall started to come down sometime in the late 80s, mostly because I have a really big voice, even if I am not very tall. You can't tell because I'm standing on a stage, so I look pretty tall. But when I get off the stage, no, Esther's saying you don't look very tall. Well, I'm going to assume I look very tall, and I write very tall. So when you haven't met me, you can't tell I'm not very tall. It's like that cartoon on the internet, no one knows you're a dog. Right, on the internet, no one knows you're only 5 feet tall. So, tough. And let me fast forward now to January of 2004, where I wrote an article called No More Second-Class Testers, and it was published in January of 2004. I had done an assessment in 2003, and the VP of engineering said to me, and these were his literal words, "We have world-class developers." And at the time, they had 1,500 of them. It was a very large engineering organization. And we have really terrible, well, the word he used was a not very nice word that I try not to use with a microphone. It refers to garbage. We have really terrible testers. And I said, all of them? He said, yeah, every single last one. I said, and your developers are all world class? He said, oh yeah, they make every single date. Well, I tried to pick my jaw up off the floor, and I said, really? He said, they never miss a date, not any single one of them. And I thought, this man is smoking something, and I would love to have some of it. Because I have been a developer, and I'll tell you, it's really hard to make any date, especially when it's been handed down. So I would really like to know how these developers did it. And you know how they did it? They were working in a procedural language, and they put in the function name and the return. Well, you can make any date if you put in the function name and the return. I can do that now, and I have not written production code for over 20 years. I can write lots of code like that if you don't have to make it work. I can come into your organization and do it in any language, because it doesn't matter if I don't know the language, because it doesn't have to work. And then all the developers will make all the dates, and all of the testers will fail because they're the ones determining that none of the code works. Okay, so what does it mean to have world-class developers and second-class testers? I mean, this guy was in total denial of what he was thinking about. So if you think about what does it look like to have second-class testers? And in this organization, the testers were routinely excluded from requirements or design meetings. They didn't get the tools they needed. They didn't get training. In fact, when I said to this guy, do you train your testers? He said, what for? All they have to do is type at the keyboard. And I wanted to do this. And I thought, no, if you do that, Johanna, he will think that you are a jerk. So I sat there, and I said, do not vibrate. Do not vibrate. Do not vibrate. Just stay calm. And you are the one with influence in this situation. You need to figure out what else is going on. And I then asked him a few more questions. I said, do you keep the testers on the same project for more than, say, 2 or 3 months? And he said, oh, no. We pick them up, we move them anywhere we want, as often as every couple of weeks. I did not say holy Moses, which is really holy expletive deleted. And I then said, do they ever work with the developers before the developers have even started coding? He said, they can't read code. Why would they? And then I said, can they read English? This is an all English speaking organization. He said, I'm pretty sure. Well, I actually worked with this guy over the course of several months and explained to him what world-class testers could do, what first-class testers could do. And it was, of course, all the things on the right-hand side that first-class testers are an integral part of requirements and design meetings because testers ask the questions because they're curious. The testers say, if we do this here, we might get this very interesting result there. Or have you considered this option? And testers actually make the product better at the very beginning. Right? And testers bring up these issues right away. That testers actually need tools. Some of them are testing tools. Some of them are other tools. But we don't know what the testers need unless they're actually in it from the very beginning. The testers need training the same way that developers need training. Maybe it's about languages. Maybe it's about tools. Maybe it's about the very difficult skills of interacting with other human beings. Because one of the things that testers have to do is say, ahem, this is not quite working the same way I thought it would. And when you have to tell someone, this is wrong, maybe you want to be able to tell them, it's wrong. Not by saying, you're stupid. This is brain dead. I've been in organizations where I was expected to tell people, this is wrong, by saying this is brain dead. This is not actually a really good way of telling them that this is wrong. Every time someone has said to me, your code is brain dead, I have not really wanted to listen to the next part. Right? That's not a really great way to start a conversation. And some of us did not get into this field because we had great interpersonal skills. As those of you in the tutorial with me yesterday know, I actually went home after my first week of work and said, Dad, I have to talk to people all day. I thought I was going to talk to my computer. Well, not my computer, but my terminal. I mean, I had actually gone to school where I had a terminal on a time-sharing operating system, and if I wanted to, I could talk to the person next to me, but I didn't have to. And if I wanted to, I could have a Diet Coke break with the other people at the soda machine or at the snack machine, where we could get quite unhealthy snacks for only a quarter or something, because it was a long time ago. And I didn't have to talk to people all day. I was trained at university that I could solve every single problem by myself inside of a semester with a sufficient number of all-nighters. I suspect you were too. Well, maybe not. Many of you are younger than I am. You probably had at least 1 or 2 group projects. But I didn't. And so I went to work fully thinking I would be singly accountable for my own work. And then they made me talk to people and work in a group. Boy, I was not ready for that. And I was just as arrogant as all the other people I worked with. And we were pretty arrogant. So I did not have the interpersonal skills to be able to do this, which is why I'm still working on my interpersonal skills and working on telling people that they are not brain dead and stupid and bad and wrong. And maybe I will learn this before I die. I still have a lot to go. So it's really important. First-class developers develop very deep domain expertise. If you talk to the really technical developers here, you learn very quickly that they understand the depth of their domain. Right? You look at this program and you look at the technical testers and you go to their talks. They will talk to you about their systems, and you can see they know in detail what they are talking about. You can talk to them. You talk to a tester who's testing financial transaction systems. They know a lot about transaction processing systems. They understand the depths of this stuff. They don't understand just how to test it. They understand the domain. They understand what happens. They understand the business consequences. This is really important. And you don't get that if you're plucked off of this project and plucked back down to that project. That's what being a first-class tester is about. And a first-class tester works with developers from the very start of working on a feature. And what does that look like to you? A first-class tester is an Agile tester. Now, in 2004, I hadn't really thought about what an Agile tester looked like. I hadn't gotten on the Agile bandwagon. I was thinking, all these developers are talking about Agile. I already know about time boxes. I love time boxes. I already know about incremental development. I love incremental development. But all these developers are saying, Agile is all about development. We don't need no stinking managers. And I'm a management geek. I had not bought into the Agile manifesto. And besides which, who the heck needs a manifesto to do good work? I was really not bought into it. You look at my writing from 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004. You don't see anything about Agile there. But I was about common sense. Right? If you look back at this article, you say, Johanna's talking about common sense. And if you look back at this, you say, this looks a lot like what Agile testers are doing. So I think the key is what makes sense to you? And how do we make first-class testers be first-class testers everywhere, whether or not they are Agile? But if you think about what Agile testers are, they are first class. If you're an Agile tester, you are a first class tester. No one can hold a candle to you. You are at the top of your field. Does that mean you have nowhere to go? Oh no. Oh no, I'm expecting that you will keep extending the boundaries of our field. You guys are going to look back at this talk in 10 years and say, oh, Johanna's okay. Yeah, she's pretty smart, but we are way smarter than she is. Because look at where she was. We're going over there. Forget this business of Diet Coke in the morning. We have something better. And that's exactly the right thing. You guys are going to keep going. You guys are going to challenge yourselves in ways that I have no idea. And I say, yes. See, this is the great thing about a cane. I can use it for emphasis as long as I don't fall over. So, and that's exactly the right thing. And for those of you who are working on being agile, you can use that little table and say, well, we're getting there. Right? We have challenges for ourselves. We can take this. We're getting there. We have a place we can start. Because in Agile, everyone is a developer. Everyone has this laser-like focus on the product. And that's what we want. Right? We want everyone to be looking at the product. And that's the key. Right? We're all developers. What I used to say when I hired testers is everyone has code. Everyone is a developer. Some people have code that ships. Those are developers. And sometimes those are writers. And testers have code that stays. And how much code do you write? Sometimes you write a lot of code. Those are people whose code ships. And sometimes you write just a little code. Those are testers. And sometimes you write code that's help code. Those are documenters, right? Writers. And sometimes you're a manager, and hopefully you're not writing anything to go with a product. And you don't have the root password, because managers don't get the root password. I have another story about that. But I'm not going to tell that today. So it's really important to say, what is it in Agile? It's a team effort. So when I talk about the team, it's really important to say, well, how does a team work together? The whole team creates the product backlog, right? So the product owner or the customer says, I want something that kind of looks like this. And it's a conversation between the developers and the testers, maybe the writers, whoever else you have on your team, and they flesh out the stories. And they understand what it means to have a story be done. Right? That's how you create the product backlog. They estimate it all together. They decide what the acceptance criteria are. How do you know when the story is done? And then, what does done really mean for the iteration or for the story? And then, how do you show people it's done? What's that demo all about? And how do you conduct a retrospective? All of this is a team activity. It doesn't start with development and then get handed off to test. It all continues all the way through with the whole team. Because Agile is all about working product, right? How do we make sure we have working product from the beginning to the end? Can it be unworking in the middle? Well, sure, that happens. But how do we make it so that everything works all the way through? Now, of course you have some automated tests. Of course you have exploratory tests. And Mike Kelly just wrote a great article on agilejournal.com where he has this notion of how many thousands of unit tests and how many hundreds of automated tests, of regression tests, and how many of which tests and how many scripts you have. It's a great article. You should take a look at agilejournal.com and read it so that you don't get hung up in testing technical debt. Because that happens a lot, because we are not accustomed to thinking about where we have testing debt and where we don't. So take a look at it when you have a chance. But it's really interesting. A lot of us at least thought for a long time that Agile was all about development. And you know what? It's not all about development, because test managers and actually development managers are a big part of our Agile transition. And one thing I would like you to consider is that we need management and we need leadership. And we cannot choose between them. The managers in our organization have to be leaders as well as managers. Right? If you just have managers, you don't have the leadership. And if you have leaders, do you also have management? We cannot afford to choose between leaders and managers. So I would like you to do a little bit of self-management here. Get into groups of 3s or 2s if you would like, and talk for a couple of minutes, maybe a minute and a half. Write down your definition of a leader. And when it looks like you're done writing, I'll ask you to shout out your definitions. Go ahead. Okay, stop where you are. I saw some people look like they had finished and leaned back, so I'm going to ask you to stop where you are. Shout out some definitions for me. Inspired. Okay. Visionary. Trustworthy. Connects people. Expert. I heard following them, but there was something before that. People are following them. Can you say that again, please? Sets his own opinion aside. Okay.
Creates an environment where everyone can bring their best talents and intelligence to bear.
Creates an environment where everyone can bring their best intelligence and talents to bear. I really like that one. Yeah. I should have put that on the next line. Sets goals and limits. Did I hear that? Steps forward when things gets tough. Wow, you got protects people, helps people. I sure hope you're recording this. Oh, excellent! I have to play it back later, so I can write these things down. Okay, good. So I didn't actually do nearly as good a job as you folks did. See, this is the value of working in teams. I only came up with, I'm going to ask you that later. I only came up with guide and conductor because I really think in an Agile team, the kind of management you need is more guiding and conducting. You don't, although Esther's definition is far superior to mine. So I'm gonna blog about that later. I'm gonna get Esther to write it down. Actually, you blog about it, and then I'll retweet yours. Okay. See, See, this is why you need teams, right? My definition is only so-so. Esther's is really good. Okay, what was that again?
Creates an environment where everyone can bring their best talents and intelligence to bear.
Creates an environment where everyone can bring their best talents and intelligence to bear. Ignore this slide. Okay. No, I'm serious, right? Mine was icky. Hers is great. So we'll just go on from there. What can you do? So the real key is that Agile test managers, and to be brutally honest, Agile development managers are leaders in the organization. And the kinds of things that they do are they set the strategy, not alone, but in a management team, to figure out how they're going to manage the project portfolio. I have a little rant later on about resources and people and managing the project portfolio, because I'm me, and you wouldn't be able to have a talk from me without it. You have to be able to remove organizational obstacles, and there are plenty of them. You have to be able to build trusting relationships with people for coaching and for meta-coaching, for feedback and for meta-feedback, and certainly career development. You have to be able to lead the hiring process, because the hiring process, whether it's just transfers into your team or hiring from the outside, is one of the key pieces of leverage for any organization. The people in your organization are the way you get things done, and it's how you build the capacity. And building communities of practice, and this I have to thank Lisa Crispin for, because I knew I was missing something, but it wasn't until Belgium testing days last year where she started talking about communities of practice is when I had my dope slap and said, that's what I'm missing. So see, we all need our communities of practice. So when you think about the strategically important work, you have to know, what is it? And when do you do it? When do you start it and stop it? And if you don't make those decisions, you create management debt and you create chaos. And without management debt is the kind of stuff that happens when managers postpone decisions and postpone decisions and postpone decisions, and you, the testers, and your colleagues, the developers, say, what are we going to do today? What am I supposed to do today? This is horrible. This is the stuff that we all go nutso about. This is quite bad. Now, you cannot make the decision permanently. You have to be able to cycle on the decisions. And this is why you need management iterations. And you can have management iterations at any number of times, right? You can have them during projects, you can have them at the end of projects. But you have to be able to reassess the strategy. You have to be able to see organizational obstacles, and those can happen at any number of times. But you have to be able to say, when are we able to free the technical teams to do their work? And we have to be able to say, when is it the right time for us to reassess what we are doing? The next thing is you have to think about organizational obstacles. And I don't know how you folks do reviews here in Europe. All I know is that individual reviews in the United States are an enormous organizational obstacle. Do you have individual reviews here where people get raises individually? Yes, raise your hand. Yeah. So here, if you're supposed to do Agile work that's team-based, why would you get an individual review? This makes no sense to me. Just no sense to me. So instead of individual reviews, why are you not doing stuff that's team-based? Now, I know why. Do you have HR here, human resources? Or something equivalent? Yeah. Okay, here's my line. Human resources is neither human nor resourceful. It's true. It's true. In the U.S., they exist to keep the company out of court. I don't know if that's what they do here, but that's what they do in the U.S. That's their sole function. We have external recruiters in the U.S. who build up huge networks of people so that they can figure out how to bring people in. I don't know if that's the recruiting function, if that's how the recruiting function works here. Again, I just don't know. I do know, it seems to me a lot of my colleagues here are contractors, so it seems like you build up your own recruiting function here. So I know things work a little differently in Europe than they do in the US. But it seems to me that if you build a trusting relationship and you have a frequent one-on-one meeting, and that's how you build up the trusting relationship, then I think you can share the strategy and share the profits and provide cost of living relationships, cost of living raises to the team, and give the team bonus, then you're in much better shape. I have been very lucky and been able to give team bonuses exactly once in my managerial life. It was quite successful. And if you like, I will tell you the story of that at some other point. But it really was quite wonderful to see how it happened. I just gave the money to the team. They decided. They gave the team the bonus. And everything worked out fine. I had to do a bunch of jumping through hoops, but it was really not a problem. Now, when I think of trusting relationships, I find that when people want to stay in a job, that what keeps them in a job is certainly enough money, enough challenge, but almost always they say it's the people. And when they talk about the people, it's the trust that they have with their manager, with the other people, and it's really important that they have that relationship with the people. And when you think about that relationship, it almost always goes to the people, right? You have to have enough good work to stay in a job, but you really have to have that relationship with the people, and that's based on trust. So what does this really mean for functional managers? If you are a functional manager and you only know about test, you are in a little bit of hot water. Because if a functional manager only knows about testing, you need to be able to be a champion for an entire team. So you need to know enough about development so developers will trust you. And you need to know enough about testing so that testers trust you. And you need to know enough about anything else in the team so that you can build trusting relationships with the rest of the people on the team. Because otherwise, you will turn into a dinosaur. And I'll tell you, I don't mind being a little creaky, and I don't mind having white hair, but I don't want to be a dinosaur. Right? This is not good. On the other hand, if you're agile, you have this wonderful challenge ahead of you to learn something more about how do the rest of the people work. And I figure, as long as I'm not dead, I can learn. Because no one can take my brain away from me. So you don't have to be a dinosaur. You can just learn more. So what happens is managers become champions for the teams that they manage. And now I am not talking about micromanaging. Absolutely not. I don't want to inflict help on teams. We've all heard stories of managers saying, "You can do more in an iteration." Oh my goodness. How can they possibly know? I would like to know that. Because if they know that, I would like to tell them how much they can do. Right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Does that little cliche translate? Yes or no? Some reaction, please. Okay, a laugh is good enough. So it's really, I wrote an article for Ganted.com called Agile Schedule Games, and one of the games is Double Your Velocity, where some well-meaning managers think that velocity is a measure of productivity rather than a team's personal measure of what they have done in the past so they can safely predict what they might be able to do in the future. It's personal. Velocity is a little bit like weight. Now, you might have noticed, based on what I look like, I really like food. My husband does not get to see the scale when I step on it. It's personal. Only my doctor and I know for sure. And it's going to stay that way. I'm not sharing my weight with anyone. Not at all. I'm not going to tell you what I weigh. Forget it. No, I'm not. And the good news is I've been traveling for a week and a half. I have no idea what I weigh. Not at all. And I'm not going to know till I get home this weekend. And then I'm going to say, oh my goodness. I'm sure that's what I'm going to say. So it's a personal thing, right? If you play double your velocity, you can play games. You can make each story twice as many points as it was before. You just double the number of points in the story. And you can do this forever, right? You can have the stories. You can play this game ad nauseum with your manager. But that doesn't mean you're actually getting twice as much done in the iteration. It's just a schedule game. So when managers become champions, they have to be able to talk about what you're really doing. You have to build that trusting relationship with every single person on the team. And when you start micromanaging anyone on the team or playing schedule games, well, that just totally destroys trust. One of the things that managers are actually really good at is helping people learn how to give and receive feedback. So remember I'd said to you, I'm still learning how to give and receive feedback, that telling someone that their work is brain dead is really not endearing. It's not very helpful. Feedback and learning how to give and receive it is a key piece of learning how to work in an Agile team. I said to you that a number of people have not always learned how to come to work clean and unsmelly and wearing appropriate attire. I wish I could tell you that now people have learned how to do this, but we still see people whose personal hygiene is not actually sufficient for close quarters in an Agile team, right? We still see people who have not really met their deodorant. We still see people who think nothing of blowing their nose into their hands and then trying to pair on the same keyboard. Icky, icky, icky. So you need to learn how to give feedback. And coaching is something that we also need to be able to do, not just from a coach to a team, but coaching each other. One of the things that if you talk to any of us speakers, you often find that we ask each other for coaching, right? When I asked Esther to repeat her definition of leadership, that was a form of coaching. When I ask Esther and Linda and Lisa and Janet, is Michael Bolton here? Yeah, I asked Michael for feedback on a column I wrote for Sticky Minds a number of years ago about exploratory testing because I wanted the review, and part of the review he gave me was coaching. I don't know if he even realized that. So I ask people for coaching all the time. And that's because I'm busy getting a support with options. So it's really important to learn how to ask for and receive coaching, and to learn how to give it when you need it, when people ask for it. A manager is ideally placed to be able to do this. Now, one of the things that happens is you need to be able to figure out, how do you give people career development if they want it? Some people don't want it. Some people are really happy where they are. So you don't impose career development on people. You just say, are you happy? And some people will say, if they're like me, okay, I want to learn how to do this. And those people need help with career development. But if you don't have a trusting relationship with your manager, you can't do any career development. So it's really important to be able to take the opportunity to do this. Now, the toughest one, to be able to build organizational capacity. How do you do this? What do I mean by this? Well, if you don't know how many projects you can push through or pull through the system of your system, where are your systemic obstacles? Then you don't actually know what your people are capable of, what your teams are capable of. And so you need to recognize when a team is stuck, because sometimes they don't know. This does not mean you go barging in and say, hey, how you doing? You look stuck to me. Even I know that's not very helpful. So in your one-on-ones, you can say, gee, do you think those retrospectives are working? Have you found something every retrospective that you can work on? Because sometimes the teams don't know that they are not even doing retrospectives that are helping. And this is where you can do a little retrospective of your own. One of the things that I have found is that a huge barrier to increasing capacity is the multitasking. If I hear one more manager say, we have resources, and they're not talking about machines, I may not be responsible for my reaction. I will be responsible. Because these poor people do not understand. They are repeating what they have heard in their organizations. But people are not machines. We need to talk about people, not resources. And if you want to increase the throughput of your organizations, then talk about people as people. Do not talk about them as machines. And if you can see the system to manage the project portfolio, you can probably eliminate the crises and the context switching and improve capacity overnight. If you do only one thing, this is probably the thing to do. Managers can really help by leading the hiring effort. The teams don't need to fill out the forms. The teams don't need to do the job analysis. The teams need to be involved with the hiring, with the interviewing. But can you do the phone screen script? Sure. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So when you think about a community of practice, start setting it up. This is not a knowledge management system. Communities of practice mean people talking one-on-one, where you have possibly architects, possibly testers, possibly developers. But it's not a system. If you can't do it with people, you can't do it with a tool. This is really important. So let me leave you with this, that Agile can create the conditions for first-class testers and for managers who are leaders in the organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johanna. It's a pleasure, like always. There is any questions there?
I finished in time for questions.
Questions?
There.
Okay. No questions? Thank you very much. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
As always. Oh my goodness, thank you.
You're welcome.
Another book.
Sponsored by the city of Potsdam.
This is so exciting.
Yeah,
Thank
have a
you.
look.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.